Jack Collins, a former Navy SEAL, now works as a freelance CIA asset for the cover company Executive Solutions, but still battles the demons from his past, downing pills to calm his PTSD. In a busy marketplace in Morocco, Jack discreetly collects his mission briefing from a CIA agent before heading back to his apartment, where he learns his latest target is a heavily guarded businessman who will be arriving at the airport shortly but must be eliminated before he gets to his hotel. After struggling through another PTSD episode, Jack readies his weapon and his mind for the task ahead. The target soon lands in Morocco, and Jack is there keeping an eye on him. But watching Jack are two Moroccan agents who know he is CIA and start following him. Following closely behind, Jack hacks the target's cell phone to hear him give up the name of a CIA mole to someone. At that moment, the Moroccan agents light Jack up, but he hits a U-turn on them. He manages to pull ahead of the agents before ditching the car and taking off on foot with the agents not too far behind. Jack manages to steal another car and get to the hotel where his target has just arrived. Jack then hacks the cars and locks the doors on a timer, then casually walks up, guns down the target before the doors lock again, and he disappears from the scene. He drives to a remote airplane hangar where he meets up with his CIA handler Lee Allen. He thought the CIA was cutting him loose, but now learns they have a Tier 1 target they want taken out. He boards the plane to see former Marine Mike Brenna. The two have a friendly yet strained relationship as Mike constantly brings up Jack's PTSD and pills. Lee explains they have 12 hours to hit their target, who is at the top of the president's kill list, and need them to put aside their differences to get the job done. Mike reminds her that he normally works alone, but she tells him it's either this job or he is cut loose. Also part of the team is Pete Samuelson, a former operator who claims to be the best out there. While Jack is going through another PTSD episode in the bathroom, Mike wonders why Lee would pick a messed-up war junkie like Jack, especially since his wife just had a child, but Lee thinks they need Jack and sacrifices are being made all around. Jack returns. Lee then reveals their target is former CIA agent Terry McKnight, who fed intel to the Taliban and had many of their guys killed. Based on this, the CIA wants him taken out. Pete, however, has heard that the CIA disavowed McKnight when his cover was blown, but Lee ignores this. She continues on, showing the team McKnight's legitimate security team when Jack recognizes one man, Tony Dayton, his former Marine teammate. Mike thinks maybe he should sit this one out, but Jack doesn't believe Tony is involved in whatever is going on. We then see McKnight meeting with one of his subordinates on a boat. He has found out from Jack's first target that the man is actually a CIA agent, and while the man tries to deny this, McKnight threatens his family unless he gives up a name. To save his life, the man gives Lee's name, but McKnight has him killed anyway. Lee and the team soon arrive in London. While the others arm themselves, Jack reaches out to Tony asking to meet up. During the drive, Mike again begins to pick at Jack about his family situation, telling him the CIA doesn't care about him and he should go home. They get to a pub where Tony is there waiting for them, and Jack introduces him to the team. After getting a round of drinks and catching up on old times, Jack shows him a photo of McKnight associate Hassan. Tony explains that he helped Hassan relocate to London, but doesn't know of him being involved in anything else. They want to talk to Hassan, but Tony is hesitant as the CIA wanting to talk to him could be nothing good. But Jack reassures him they just want to talk and are even willing to pay. With Pete driving, Tony leads them to an area where Hassan is staying, but once they come to a stop, Tony suddenly attacks Pete and escapes the car. Jack and Mike go after him with guns drawn, but Tony manages to ambush them along with other shooters. Tony manages to stab Mike multiple times before finishing him off with a stab to the neck. Pete comes to lay down gunfire, and the two tactically retreat from the alley before speeding away. Jack doesn't take Mike's death well and wants Pete cut loose before he gets himself killed as well, but Pete blames him for Mike's death. Lee gives Pete the lead as Jack is obviously out of it, and when Pete asks about Mike's cut of the money, Jack attacks him until they are broken up. Lee then warns them both not to jeopardize her operation or she will have both their asses. Tony is upset with his men for messing up the ambush. He now knows he will have to go to war with the CIA to protect their investment, but is not worried as he has a plan. His investment turns out to be McKnight, as Tony is his head of security, warning him about the CIA kill team after him. McKnight knows of Jack and Tony's history in the army together, but Tony tells him that was a long time ago, and he has no problem putting Jack down if it comes to it. Lee pulls Tony's TJD security office location and passes it on to Pete, who is with Jack on the road. While Tony is moving McKnight to another location, he asks about Jack's handler Lee. It turns out McKnight and Lee have history, as Lee blames him for killing her father, and because of this, she is very dangerous. They soon arrive at a boat to set up their operations. Jack calls Tony, who is back on the road. Tony tells him Mike's death was just business, but Jack promises to put him down. Tony warns him to go home and live to see his kids, but Jack has no plans to turn back now. He wonders what could cause Tony to turn, but Tony is done being used by the government, and it's time he started looking out for himself. Jack and Pete arrive at the TJD security location. Wearing masks and armed, they break into the office, but Tony sees them on cameras and starts heading to the location. While inside the office, Pete plants an explosive under the desk. As they are leaving, they spot Tony arriving, so Pete blows the office as they get close before disappearing. Pete taunts Tony with a text, which he uses to get their location, but this turns out to be a trap set by Pete and Jack as they plan to lead him and his men into a kill zone set up by Lee, who already has a team there. Pete and Jack plan their assault on the building with the goal being to separate Tony from his team and extract him. Tony realizes he is being led into a trap, but plans to overwhelm the CIA with his men. Lee begins surveilling the building from a drone just as Pete and Jack arrive to meet just 2 other CIA agents there and begin arming themselves for the upcoming fight. Tony and his team of men soon arrive at the location, arm themselves, and set out with instructions to kill anything that moves. Lee alerts her guys to the incoming men. Inside, Jack, Pete, and the CIA agents all ready themselves for the ambush and begin advancing on Tony and his team. Tony gets eyes on Jack and Pete moving through the darkness, and he and his men quicken their pace to their location. Just as the men get into range, the 2 CIA agents throw a flashbang and launch their attack, allowing Jack and Pete to grab Tony. The 2 CIA operatives manage to keep the other men back for a while, but they soon get overrun and killed. Pete and Jack don't get far when the men catch up and attack, allowing Tony to escape, but Jack lays down fire before escaping with an injured Pete. He thinks Jack should have left him behind, and Jack tells him he thought about it. They get outside where Jack plants trackers on all the vehicles. Their car is missing, forcing them to continue on foot. When Tony gets outside, he sends one man back to McKnight. Then he uses one of the dead CIA operatives' cell phones to contact Lee. He taunts her that 2 CIA agents are dead and Jack and Pete are next, but Lee tells him he is compromised. She, however, wants to make a deal with him, as men can be replaced but opportunities cannot be. Jack steals a car. Inside, he sees a baby seat and zones out until Pete snaps him back to reality. As they drive, Pete is still feeling the effects of the bullet he took to the vest, but thanks Jack for the save and they bump fists. He checks the trackers and sees one car heading to the docks and figures out that's where McKnight is held up. They try reaching out to Lee, but at that time she is having a secret meeting with Tony in a parking lot. Unable to get Lee, Jack thinks they should continue on and hit the boat before backup arrives, and Pete agrees. Both Lee and Tony plan on making a deal. He wants Collins, and she wants McKnight's head, offering up to $1 million. He explains that McKnight plans to purchase a tactical nuke from the Russians, but he knows her true intention is to get revenge. It's even worse than McKnight explained, as it turns out Lee's father was beheaded and the video sent to her. The 2 agree to the deal, and Lee gives up Jack and Pete's location. The 2 are surveying the boat and expect some heavy resistance. Pete tries calling Lee once more, but is still unable to get through. They are also low on ammunition, and Jack gives Pete the chance to back out, but he thinks taking out McKnight would do the world a favor. The 2 then push on the boat, weapons at the ready. They clear the upper deck carefully until they come upon a hatch where they kill a man inside and drop another pushing on them. The man painfully explains that Tony already knows they are here, so Pete kills him. They try pulling out, but soon come under heavy gunfire from Tony and his men. The gunfire is intense, and Pete and Jack begin covering each other, trying to escape the ambush. Jack manages to make it to full cover, but Pete is pinned down on every side by gunfire, with Jack urging him to move. Tony even starts to taunt him, so Pete gets fed up and steps out, laying down gunfire until he runs out, and Tony holds him at gunpoint. Instead of killing Pete right away, he disarms him and then drops his own gun, wanting a man-to-man fight to see who is the best. The two pull knives, but Pete easily overpowers him. In the end, Tony simply shoots him dead with a hidden gun. Tony then takes Pete's walkie, taunting Jack that he is next. Jack manages to escape the scene and get back to his car and take off. Pete's death really takes a toll on him, and he rages out in the car. Tony gets back to McKnight, who is pissed that he allowed Jack to interfere with his deal, which is now at risk, but he promises to take care of the problems despite McKnight's disrespect and leaves two men to guard him. McKnight relents, then tells Tony to take out Lee once he's done with Jack. Jack gets a message from Lee and goes to her office. There he explains Pete's death to her, wondering how Tony knew their location, but Lee lies that he was able to extract the info from one of her men. Jack agrees to complete the mission but wants out after, and Lee tries gaslighting him into staying, telling him he is fighting to defend his country against a terrorist and it is his duty. Jack doesn't care about duty, as he recalls an incident during his tour in the Middle East where he and two other Marines were cut off from their unit and came upon three old men and a young boy in a cave. They asked the scared locals to help them get out of the town, promising not to harm them, but ended up killing them anyway once they were out. Lee tells him he did what he needed to do, but Jack just wants to get the mission over with and disappear. Lee has her tech person try to hack TJD servers, and when that fails, she tracks down Tony's family. Jack doesn't want to get them involved, but Lee threatens that he won't see his family if he doesn't comply. All this time, Tony is waiting for an update from Lee, and once Jack sets out, she alerts Tony and sends him Jack's car code, which they use to start tracking him. Now having locked onto Jack's car, Tony gives the signal, and his men pull on masks and begin closing in. Meanwhile, Jack just feels something is off and begins to ready himself in case of anything. He drives and gets to a tunnel, but soon realizes that two cars are closing in from both directions. Before he can react, the men inside deactivate his car, block the road, and launch their attack, but Jack is ready and fights back, managing to take down the two teams of men. He forces the survivor into his car, then uses his cell phone to get Tony's location at the warehouse. Tony confirms with Lee that Jack has been taken out and that he's also on his way to kill McKnight, who is also at the warehouse. McKnight meets with his Russian clients to purchase the warhead. While the deal is going down, Tony and his men pull up to what they think is the deal location heavily armed, but are shocked to see it empty with two of his men dead. Jack knows that Lee set him up and demands to know the details from his hostage, but the man refuses to talk. At the warehouse, Lee also turns up and learns that they lost McKnight and Jack is still alive. She then gets a call from McKnight, who tells her to put him on speaker. He reveals he knows they tried setting him up and tells Tony that Lee will throw him under the bus to her bosses before she takes the blame for not killing him. He taunts that Tony's only way out now is to kill Lee, and before they can trace his cell phone, he tosses it. The room gets tense, and Lee warns the men to think things through, but Tony doesn't harm her. He instead has his man posted at the hotel force McKnight's tech guy to reveal his location before killing him. Tony soon gets the details, but Lee is taking no chances and holds one man at gunpoint. At that moment, Jack enters the warehouse holding one man at gunpoint, but ends up kicking off a brutal fight between himself and Tony, both wielding blades. Meanwhile, Lee is fighting for her life, but manages to kill her attacker. Tony and Jack are still going at it, but Jack manages to overpower him, finally killing Tony with his own blade. Jack and Lee leave the warehouse together. She tries to talk to him, but he doesn't want to hear her excuses as to why she betrayed him. Meanwhile, McKnight arrives at his private hangar, but his plane is late. Jack and Lee soon arrive at the airfield, and he tells her to clear airspace as they are taking McKnight's plane. He then gears up and moves alone toward the airfield through the woods where he sees McKnight's plane about to land. He breaks into the hangar through the back to see McKnight heading out to meet his plane. Jack plants a bomb, then blows up the men stationed inside the hangar after a short gunfight. Jack then opens fire on McKnight's car while running. McKnight makes it to his plane, which starts to take off. Jack then guns down the remaining men from the shadows before jumping in a van and blocking the path of the jet, forcing it to stop. Jack prepares to open fire when another car tries hitting him, but he barely avoids it. McKnight lets off shots at Jack and tries to escape, but Lee appears out of the dark and shoots him. McKnight returns fire, hitting Lee before Jack finishes him off. Jack goes to Lee, who dies after asking if he got McKnight. Jack leaves her and boards the plane along with the warhead and orders the pilot to take off. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more movie recaps like this. See you later.